Here is Immortal Moments for explanation. Friends, like videos and subscribes to our channel. Swallowed Star 2 Land of Origin Part 34 Explanation. So let's start our explanation. He had already said there was no need for a sparring match, but the master insisted on proceeding. Now that the master is somewhat embarrassed, would he take it out on him? That shouldn't be the case, Luo Feng couldn't help but say. Although my godly body is far from reaching its limit, my divine power is quite pure, surpassing that of a normal primal chaos realm cultivator. This blade with maximum burning of divine power, how could it not even break your skin? If Morosa used a body protection secret method or burned divine power, Luo Feng would find it quite normal not to be able to break through his skin. But to not even break it with a mere 10% of strength? Would that mean that even if Luo Feng grew to his limit, he would only barely be able to injure Morosa? Well, that's because, Morosa began to explain, I'm not a normal cultivator, I'm a sector beast. My body naturally trains to be incredibly resilient, far surpassing any body refinement technique the master has. That's why the master couldn't break my skin. Morosa had always looked down on the master's body refinement methods. Far surpassing my body refinement methods. Luo Feng could understand. After all, Morosa was a being born with a complete grasp of the destruction origin, so it stood to reason that his body training method would surpass the primal chaos great strength diagram. With no precious materials consumed, how do you refine your body? Luo Feng inquired. Master, what is body refinement? Morosa looked at Luo Feng. For instance, the most basic unit of your cultivator's bodies is divine power. For sector beasts, it is the power of sector beasts. How to more efficiently combine divine power to greatly enhance defense, strength, and speed, that is called body refinement. There's more than one method for divine power to combine more efficiently. The so-called refinement of the godly body as if it were a weapon secret treasure is merely one path. Morosa looked at Luo Feng. I don't need resources, I just need to alter the structure formed by the power of sector beasts in accordance with the enlightenment from the origin of destruction to naturally make the entire body stronger. However, this method is not suitable for you, Master. I am a sector beast, containing a realm within my body. This is the body refinement method that nurtures realms. Morosa explained. Luo Feng then understood. Indeed. The essence of body training is making divine power combine more efficiently. And treating it as an artifact refining is just one of the paths. Let me have a look at your method, Luo Feng requested. Sure. Morosa extended his hand, strands of power of sector beast flew out, beginning to combine, but even if you watch, Master, you won't be able to practice it. This body refinement method is based on the core of a realm. The seemingly common power of sector beast combined intricately, and such structure was so beautiful that Luo Feng marveled at it. Just like many grains of sand combined to form a weapon capable of tearing through the starry sky. Changing the most fundamental structure eventually makes the whole body very strong. This process doesn't require consuming massive resources, merely a combination of the power of sector beast. This is much more sophisticated than refining the body into a secret treasure. Marvelous, Luo Feng exclaimed. I've heard that some ancient godly kings had unfathomably mysterious godly bodies. They probably did it in a similar way. Morosa's such fine body refinement techniques had only been a subject of hearsay to Luo Feng. His master, mountain-sitting guest, and those of the Duandong River lineage, also only had some records about such inheritance, which was considered very precious even among the godly king-level inheritances. This path is one I can try. Luo Feng felt instinctively that he could replicate Morosa's sector beast power structure to a degree of 70 to 80%. The main issue was his lack of a realm and not being as advanced in the path of destruction as Morosa. But as a perfect divine body, with the ability to be formless and intangible, he could transform at will even divine power into the power of sector beast. He could fully mimic and learn, drawing experience from it. Luo Feng extended his hand, and strands of sector beast power appeared, quickly combining to form a seemingly perfect structure. Morosa looked on in surprise. His master's divine power could also transform into the power of sector beast, which Morosa had long known. But this body refinement breakthrough had only been achieved by him after a long period in the primal chaos realm. It looked similar on the surface, but there are some differences inside, Morosa observed carefully and said. A miss is as good as a mile. Luo Feng nodded. My realm in the destruction of the origin is not as good as yours. I can't mimic it perfectly. Only by fully understanding the composition of a substance can one transform perfectly, otherwise, one could only disguise its surface at most. For example, he had seen a godly king up close. The surface disguise could be very similar, but the internal differences were vast. Moreover, it lacks realm. The realm within your body is the core of the body refining method. It's the key to why your body is so strong. Luo Feng shook his head, knowing that no matter how he transformed, he could not produce a realm. Luo Feng looked at the structure of sector beast power floating above his palm. It seems perfect, but in reality, it is unstable and could collapse at any moment. Morosa watched from the side. He couldn't assist his master. His growth came from eating and drinking naturally. The thought of researching secret techniques gave him a headache. You can go about your business. Luo Feng waved his hand, sending Morosa away. Luo Feng was alone, silently observing the floating structure of sector beast power before him. It was so beautiful. The body refining method that Morosa, darling of destruction origin, had mastered, was perhaps considered among the very top of its class across the entire land of origin. Buzz. Luo Feng extended his hand to disperse the sector beast power structure and began to form it with divine power. The divine power formed an identical structure, but it seemed so strange. No, this is completely wrong. Luo Feng shook his head. Alone inside Star Tower, Luo Feng attempted to modify, simplify, and integrate his ideas, using all means but failing to come up with a stable divine power structure. With insufficient realm, relying on mere imitation to research a set of body refining methods is indeed wishful thinking, Luo Feng said with a light smile, dispersing the dozen or so divine power structures in the air. I will need to accumulate enough realm and then explore slowly. Luo Feng looked toward the distance. In the corner of this layer of space, a small space was sealed off, where 15 primal chaos layer creatures were flying joyfully. As long as they were fed a sufficient amount of primal chaos crystals, they lived carefree lives. In the past, Luo Feng often observed primal chaos layer creatures, but after breaking through to the primal chaos realm, their value to him had diminished. A thought struck Luo Feng. Primal chaos layer creatures, their structure is incredibly simple, and I have studied them many times. Luo Feng pondered. I can try to transform. The formless and intangible ability of the perfect life form had failed on Morosa's body refining method, but now Luo Feng had his sights set on the primal chaos layer creatures. Transform. Luo Feng pointed his finger. Immediately a silver droplet formed. This silver droplet was incredibly stable. I understand the primal chaos laws. This silver droplet creature is the one I have studied the most, and it is originally formed from droplets of silver. Luo Feng revealed a smile. Primal chaos divine power surged, and one after another silver droplet formed. A total of 120 silver droplets floated. Luo Feng smiled as he watched, but gradually his brows furrowed. This is wrong. They can't fuse. Luo Feng tried to touch the silver droplets together, but they still couldn't merge. A real silver droplet creature would actively fuse together, and its power would undergo a qualitative change. But why can't these silver droplets I transformed merge? Why can't they merge? Luo Feng pondered. Could it be that I haven't thoroughly researched their essence? To fully understand is to perfectly transform. In the epoch of the primordial cosmos, he had confirmed his capability of formless and intangible. This silver droplet has a relatively simple structure. What else have I not seen through? Luo Feng beckoned with his hand, and immediately captured the longest silver-like creature formed from 1091 silver droplets. In front of Luo Feng, now in the primal chaos realm, this silver-like creature had no ability to resist. It was rapidly split into a silver droplet. Whoosh! With a gentle swipe of Luo Feng's finger, the silver droplet was sliced apart, dissolving into silver mist and visualized primal chaos laws. This silver mist is just a condensed form of chaotic power. This visualization of the primal chaos laws. Luo Feng's expression changed, as he immediately noticed the issue. Previously, as an eternal true God, he determined at a glance that this was a visualization of the primal chaos laws. But now, having grasped the primal chaos laws and become part of the primal chaos realm, he recognized the problem. This is indeed a visualization of the primal chaos laws, containing the characteristics of primal chaos gold and water of primal chaos. But it has a hint of spirituality, Luo Feng realized. He had simply copied the primal chaos laws visualization he understood directly. Yet in reality, the primal chaos laws visualization within the silver droplet seemed alive. As if it had come alive? Possessing spirituality of primal chaos laws? Luo Feng's complexion changed slightly. In the land of origin region of the primordial cosmos, an incarnation of Luo Feng's divine power headed straight for the primordial cosmos. The primordial cosmos, at the source ground, that core location. Great Tao of life origin. Luo Feng had come here again, looking up at the towering Great Tao of life origin. It had different aspects, and from different perspectives, it appeared differently. After grasping the primal chaos laws, Luo Feng felt that understanding the Great Tao of life origin seemed not so difficult anymore. My previous realm was too weak. I actually thought that silver droplet creatures contained only the complete primal chaos laws. I was wrong, so wrong. Luo Feng, facing the vast Great Tao of life origin, knew he was mistaken. This endless twisting dragon before him could be viewed from various angles, and one could also see a winding dragon bone connecting the whole body. The information contained within this winding dragon bone allowed Luo Feng to vaguely see flowers blooming, fuzzy creatures breaking out of their shells. An ancient tree that had lived for countless years, one day, suddenly cultivated spirituality. It came alive and became a plant life. The spirit of life is the starting point of life. A touch of the spirit of life can even bring a stubborn stone to life, turning it into a rock-type creature. Silver droplet creatures don't have a clear consciousness, they can't think or communicate. But the essence of their life is very high, Luo Feng pondered. Even the most basic element of their life structure, a silver droplet, contains life spirituality. Like humans, like many animals. In their blood, bones, muscles, and so on, there is no spirituality. Only when a soul merges with the body does it count as a life. Without a soul, it is just a walking corpse. Even true gods of void space, eternal true gods, each one is like this, the soul is fundamental. Some plant life cultivate a bit of spirituality from the whole plant. Whereas silver droplet creatures, each silver droplet of theirs contains life spirituality. This makes the life that finally comes together extraordinarily powerful. I originally thought its core was just the complete primal chaos laws. Now I know, its core is the primal chaos laws merged with the spirit of life. It's just that the spirituality isn't particularly high. Luo Feng looked at the dragon bone of this endless coiling dragon before him. Facing the origin of life, Luo Feng understood how terrifying it could be if the life spirituality were strong enough. A touch of spirituality can animate a stubborn rock. If every drop of divine power contains spirituality, how terrifying would that be? If it harbors strong spirituality, each portion of divine power would seem to come alive, fundamentally transforming. The strength, speed, and resilience of the godly body could soar rapidly. The godly body itself would become immensely powerful, virtually unshakable, Luo Feng thought, and, if willing, each part of my divine power could develop its own consciousness, capable of giving birth to a new life. A single drop of my blood, guided by my will, can form another strong and vivid life. These vibrant lives are limited by the amount of power I bestow upon them. The more divine power I bestow, the larger this independent life becomes. If I were a godly king, I could differentiate my flesh and blood, and perhaps create thousands of primal chaos realm incarnations. Luo Feng mused, the flesh and blood I can divide are parts of my godly body. If I divide it out, I too would become weakened. The pathway of life spirituality. The so-called animating life, creating powerful incarnations are merely auxiliary uses. For those who have become godly kings along this path, their godly bodies are the most terrifying. Their godly bodies are an upgraded version of the silver droplet creatures. Parts of their flesh and blood can be condensed to form weapons. Destroying them is as difficult as destroying Emperor-level secret treasure weapons. With my humble realm, I can only glimpse a part of the path of life spirituality. Luo Feng looked at the endless coiling dragon before him. Perhaps there are other terrifying aspects. That ancestral god of the snow realm had mastered one of the branches of the great Tao of life origin. Its ability to preserve life reached an unbelievable extent. Despite immense sins, it still lives to this day. The great Tao of life origin has many branches. The more branches you master, the more terrifying you become. If you can merge many branches into one, mastering the complete great Tao of life origin, Luo Feng gazed up at the towering endless coiling dragon. An existence that has mastered the full great Tao of life origin is just like this endless winding dragon. Such a being is the embodiment of the concept of life itself. Life spirituality. Luo Feng sat cross-legged, carefully observing the vast origin great Tao, studying the dragon bone of the endless coiled dragon. Luo Feng knew his realm was shallow. He was only researching some information similar to the spirituality of the silver droplet creatures. When he could perfectly change the silver droplet creatures, it would represent a small achievement on the path of life spirituality. Days went by. In Luo Feng's eyes, there was only that dragon bone containing endless spiritual information, continuously absorbing the information. The more he understood, the deeper his understanding of the spirituality of the silver droplet creatures. Only time would tell how long it had been. I should be able to change it now. Luo Feng, with a certain level of understanding of life spirituality, naturally gained confidence. A layer of space within the Star Tower. Luo Feng sat cross-legged, stretched out his hand and gently tapped, and a wisp of divine power transformed, bringing forth a droplet of silver liquid. This droplet of silver was an absolute spherical shape, its surface marked with traces of the primal chaos laws, imbued with the rhythm of life. It was like adding the finishing touch to a dragon in Earth's mythological stories. Once it contained life spirituality, the essence of this silver droplet had completely transformed. How magical, Luo Feng observed as the silver droplet flowed in his palm. After fully comprehending the essence of the silver droplets, Luo Feng found that his consciousness naturally merged with them as he created them with the formless and intangible ability of the perfect divine body. The silver droplet felt like it was a part of his own body. That's right, even though silver-like creatures have extremely low intelligence, they are capable of feelings like joy, anger, attack, and so on. This silver droplet is capable of carrying consciousness, albeit an extremely weak one. Luo Feng waved his hand. A mass of primal chaos divine power flew out, transforming into thousands of silver droplets. Each of the silver droplets possessed spirituality. Upon manifesting, they instinctively sought to merge. Just like how human fingers naturally work together, these silver droplets naturally combined. This is a successfully transformed silver droplet. Luo Feng smiled. To carry consciousness and merge naturally were the abilities of the silver droplets. Thousands of silver droplets merged together, akin to numerous parts forming one complete machine, the power instantly undergoing a qualitative leap. They easily transformed into various weapons: silver blade light, silver sword light, silver long sticks, silver nets. Just in terms of strength and speed, it's already comparable to Yonghu of the unlimited godly bodies. It is only that the moves are somewhat clumsy. Luo Feng continued to sprinkle divine power and produced a large number of silver droplets. The silver droplets kept converging, 3,000, 5,000, however, there was no significant change in power. When they accumulated to 10,000, they formed a stream of silver liquid. The might of this stream of silver liquid rose again. This silver-like creature is indeed peculiar, capable of continuous quality changes through accumulation. Luo Feng, curious, continued to produce a massive amount of silver droplets. 100,000, million, yet the power showed no obvious changes. Luo Feng painstakingly transformed silver droplets, and each one embodied weak life spirituality. Even such weak spirituality required some thought for Luo Feng. From initially producing thousands at a time, he grew more adept until he could create millions with a wave of his hand. Finally, when the count reached 100 million, another qualitative change occurred. Boom tilde tilde tilde. A silver river hung in the void. 100 million droplets perfectly merged into a whole. Even for me to destroy it would take some effort. Luo Feng swiped a hand across the Silver River. The Silver River was incredibly resilient and merely trembled slightly, dispersing. It's comparable to a newly advanced primal chaos realm being. Of course, it was only comparable to the strength of normal moves. Once a newly advanced primal chaos realm being burned its divine power at its limit to fight desperately, increasing its power by several folds, it could still suppress this Silver River. Can it continue to merge? Luo Feng tried. 200 million, 300 million, 1 billion. Luo Feng was patient because the last qualitative change was from 10,000 to 100 million, a multiplier of 10,000 times. As Luo Feng transformed again and again, his understanding of the silver droplets deepened, and the quantity he could change increased more and more. In a sweep, he could produce tens of millions, hundreds of millions, even up to 1 billion droplets. But the Silver River still showed no qualitative change. 1 trillion droplets. 2 trillion. As a cultivator who had practiced for endless eons, Luo Feng was not in a hurry. Even if just to deepen his understanding of life spirituality, he continued to produce massive quantities of droplets. Finally, when he accumulated to the level of 10 quintillion droplets, the originally vast and scattered Silver River naturally united to form a perfect whole. Whoosh 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 tilde 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 tilde. A broad silver river, hundreds of kilometers long, flowed mightily within the Star Tower. The strength of it amazed Luo Feng. Go? The mighty Silver River suddenly thinned, transforming into a silver blade like tens of thousands of kilometers long. This was also its normal state. At this moment, it can be large or small. Luo Feng felt in the depths of his being that it was utterly perfect. Small, it could fit within the palm of a hand. Large, it could span across heaven and earth. It also far surpasses the previous might. Luo Feng felt that after another leap in toughness, strength, and speed, even with clumsy moves, it could be comparable to the casual moves of an ordinary primal chaos realm being. Ordinary primal chaos realm beings represented the most basic strength of the primal chaos realm. Those who've just broken through? They tend to lie low like Luo Feng is currently doing, cultivating combat secret techniques, life-saving secret laws, body-refining secret techniques and so on, beginning to solidify their strength in all aspects. Normally, those who roam about, ordinary primal chaos realm beings are the weakest. Such cases are rare. Perhaps 1 in 10 primal chaos realm beings is at this lowest level. Because beings of the primal chaos realm have infinite lifespans, even if they are part of a bloodline cultivation system, they usually attain the middle layer of the primal chaos realm, standard given enough accumulation. For a primal chaos realm being with an unlimited godly body, once the godly body grows to its limit, that being is at the middle layer standard of the primal chaos realm. If they go on to cultivate some powerful secret techniques and their realm accumulates, their abilities improving in all aspects, only then can they be considered at the top of the primal chaos realm. The pinnacle of the primal chaos realm is quite impressive indeed. Marquis of Zhujiang is one such being. One step further. To touch the edge of the godly king. To master more than 99% of a branch of origin Great Tao, leaving only the final breakthrough as the bottleneck. With such strength, one could be considered at the pinnacle of primal chaos realm. Marquis Liu Yin is at this level. Under normal circumstances, the pinnacle of primal chaos realm is the strongest level for many second-rate and third-rate countries of primal chaos realm beings. Only under special circumstances, such as primal chaos realm beings from the 2 ancient countries who have cultivated secret laws surpassing that of Godly King secret techniques, like Luo Feng's Lai Yuan technique which also exceeds the Godly King secret techniques. The elite of the primal chaos realm from these ancient countries surely have a few who can transcend the pinnacle of primal chaos realm. The Silver River of 108 trillion droplets finally has the strength of an ordinary creature of the primal chaos realm with a simple wave of the hand. Normal creatures of the primal chaos layer indeed have clumsy moves and low intelligence. However, this is created by me, and it is my consciousness that controls it. My realm is certainly not considered low. Luo Feng revealed a smile. With a single thought. A vast expanse of silver blade light appeared in the air, carrying terrifying high speed, it instantly cut through the operation of the primal chaos laws, tearing apart numerous spatial layers, and created a black spatial ravine. Ordinary beings of the primal chaos realm could only manage so much with a full-strength blow, using all their might to burn divine power, I suppose, Luofeng thought. It also matches about 2 to 3 times the power of my previous all-out effort. Can it continue to stack up? Although he felt it was perfect, Luofeng still continued to try. Now with one gesture, he could create hundreds of millions of silver droplets. The number continued to increase. Luofeng treated it as a form of cultivation. Even though the perfect divine body had not grown to its limit, it was still quite immense. Luofeng naturally could transform into a vast number of silver droplets. Every 108 trillion droplets of silver blade light, he regarded as one unit. Luofeng transformed half of his current godly body into silver droplets. He had transformed into 1.2 billion units of silver blade light, but these silver droplets could no longer fuse together or undergo qualitative change. It seems that they cannot undergo further qualitative change, Luofeng realized. At this moment, a vast silver ocean appeared within this level of space in the Star Tower, with Luofeng sitting cross-legged atop this vast silver ocean. This was the silver ocean formed by the gathering of 1.2 billion units of silver blade light. These silver droplets have a few flaws, the first being that they very easily get hungry. And they can't absorb power from heaven and earth, they must rely on chaotic power, primal chaos crystals, or even more pure primal chaos divine power, Luofeng pondered. Fortunately, my miniature universe supplies endless primal chaos divine power at all times. Maintaining these silver rivers is fairly easy. The second flaw is that they are not divine power and can't drive weapon secret treasures. If ordinary body refining methods are just about divine power exerting its might more efficiently, fundamentally, it is still divine power. But when Luofeng transformed divine power into silver droplets, even the most basic unit was completely changed. From divine power into the form of silver droplets. Silver droplets can't autonomously absorb the power of heaven and earth, can't drive weapon secret treasures, and can't even burn like divine power. The third flaw is that they can't burn like divine power. Their normal state's power is already their limit, Luofeng thought to himself. Creatures of the primal chaos layer still have quite a few weaknesses. But all of these weaknesses cannot cover up their advantages, Luofeng was excited. A single unit of silverlight creature performing the primal chaos blade is comparable to an ordinary being of primal chaos realm at the limit of burning divine power in a strike. What about 10 units then? With a single thought from Luofeng. The immense silver ocean flew out with indeed 10 streaks of blade light. 10 streaks of blade light performed the same primal chaos blade, the might terrifying, as if 10 ordinary beings of the primal chaos realm were desperately burning divine power. For me, I need to divide my attention and multitask. My spiritual will is strong enough now, and my soul is strong enough, and the primal chaos blade is quite a simple move. Luofeng tried it out. In mid-air, streaks of blade light rose up, continuously practicing the primal chaos blade. The Star Tower was extraordinarily stable, allowing Luofeng to practice his moves to his heart's content. Eventually, a total of 300 streaks of blade light rose. 300 streaks of silver blade light, each one immense, each performing the primal chaos blade. As if 300 ordinary beings in primal chaos realm were giving their all in a full-strength strike, the might was already startling to Luofeng. Boom tilde 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 tilde. Even if the skill level was low, the combined might of 300 streaks of silver blade light forcibly tore through a dense multitude of spatial layers. I have discovered a new body refining route, the law of transformation. Transforming into a myriad of forms, possessing the traits of special creatures, Luofeng was very excited. Of course, this transformation method was unique to him. The ability to be formless and intangible was what made Luofeng's divine power so easily transformable. The law of transformation is not a single Tao. Luofeng faced the great Tao of life origin directly and understood this clearly. The ultimate form for a body should be understanding the profound rules that make the godly body powerful, as if one's very self is the convergence of the entire Tao. I am currently only in the primal chaos realm, and I haven't even grasped a branch of the Tao. A lot is lacking to seek the ultimate. Luo Feng was self-aware. In the early stages before mastering the complete Tao, being able to transform in endless ways holds many advantages and helps in contemplating the Tao. With a thought from Luo Feng, he teleported Morosa into the Star Tower. Master, Morosa looked at his master eagerly. Morosa, let's have another sparring match, Luo Feng said to Morosa with a smile. Morosa was stunned. Another sparring session? Previously, even the master's full-strength blow could not break the skin of his palm. That was when he had completely restrained his own power. Master, why don't we wait until your godly body has grown to its limit before we spar? Morosa couldn't help but say, the gap was too large. There was no point in sparring, one could stand there and let the master hit without breaking the skin. Right now, Luo Feng said. If the master demands, then let's have the contest. Morosa had no choice, who asked for the master to be the master. Master, I will not burn divine power, nor will I use any primal chaos realm moves. I will purely engage using my body, Morosa said. This way he would only exert about 10% of his strength. Luo Feng smiled and nodded, good. As he spoke, Luo Feng waved his hand. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. In the dark space of this level of the Star Tower, 300 silver blade lights hovered in the air, each about 10 meters long. Morosa, you better be ready, Luo Feng said with a smile. Bring it on, Morosa said, looking at the ordinary 300 blade lights and couldn't help muttering to himself, fancy moves, weak godly body, weak realm, no threat at all. The blade technique I am using is the Primal Chaos Blade, which is the first blade of the world-breaking 9 blades in the Primal Chaos realm, containing a hint of the aura from the Great Tao of Destruction origin, Luo Feng said cheerfully. Morosa still wasn't concerned. Destruction's origin? The master's mysteries of destruction's origin were all learned from him. Boom! 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 The 300 blade lights, each formed from 180 billion silver droplets, even in their normal state are tens of thousands of kilometers long. But now, shrunken to about 10 meters, their power was intensely concentrated, making them even sharper. The world-breaking 9 blades in the Primal Chaos realm aimed to split open the cage. Luo Feng had watched Morosa demonstrate the mysteries of destruction's origin and had also vaguely comprehended some of the mysteries hidden between heaven and earth in the Great Tao of Destruction's origin. He knew that the path of destruction contained many branches. The world-breaking 9 blades pursued one of the branches of destruction's origin, the chop and split branch. This branch's name was not known to Luo Feng, it was a name he came up with himself. During his comprehension, he naturally understood the many characteristics of this branch, which sought to split everything in the universe in twain. It contained endless sharpness, aiming to split apart all hindrances. Luo Feng was ultimately a swordsman, and this branch suited his temperament well, so naturally, he spent most of his thoughts on it. At this moment, the 300 blade lights were pitilessly sharp, converging like a rolling river of blades, embodying the force of 300 ordinary primal chaos realm beings burning their divine power in a desperate strike. Rumbling tilde tilde tilde. Effortlessly powerful. Dense masses of spatial layers were instantly destroyed, its force comparable to the final blade of world-breaking 9 blades, the world-breaking blade. At close range, Morosa was so startled that his eyes bulged, his divine power within violently burst forth, surging violently, his godly body's might greatly increased, and then he was engulfed by the river of silver blade light. Morosa was blasted forth like a streak of flowing light, bang, slamming fiercely against the inner wall of the Star Tower. His skin was covered in numerous wounds, his bones broken in many places, his body terribly mangled, and his face horribly disfigured. The previously simple and honest face had become much uglier. He fell down from the inner wall of the Star Tower, his injuries quickly disappearing, and both his eyes returned to normal as he exclaimed in disbelief, "Master, how long has it been? You can already match my full-strength strike when I'm burning divine power. How is that possible? I've been in the primal chaos realm for more than 5 eras. My body has grown to its limit, and I still possess various secret techniques. How long has Master broken through to catch up with me?" Morosa couldn't believe it, nor could he accept it. Wasn't he naturally possessing the mysteries of destruction's origin, and now he'd been caught up to in terms of cultivation? Luo Feng watched him with a smile, 300 blades of light floating around. I've always said, you need to understand, to learn to research, Luo Feng teased. Understand? Study? I can't learn that, Morosa couldn't help saying, Master, now I have to go all out. At that moment, as Morosa stood there, the surrounding void twisted, his body seemingly transforming into a dark abyss, causing everything in all directions to twist and shatter. The shattering of the void spread continually, also reaching towards Luo Feng. Master, just because a technique is powerful doesn't mean it's strong, realm is also very important, Morosa said. Oh. Luo Feng watched Morosa at that moment. Morosa himself seemed like a dark abyss, his figure becoming indistinct. Slash! Luo Feng did not hesitate, the 300 blades of light, carrying the force that split everything, also sliced toward the twisted dark endless abyss before him. This endless abyss shattered and twisted everything around, and Luo Feng's blade's force was crushed, twisted, and devoured. Most of its power was destroyed and ground up, with only a small part remaining which was swallowed by Morosa, leaving him completely unharmed this time. Master, if your blade technique is just powerful, then its weakness is too obvious, Morosa, incarnated as the Dark Abyss, transmitted his voice. With the increase in realm, some mighty primal chaos realm techniques are quite mysterious, and your power is likely to be mostly dissipated or redirected. As a sector beast, I am quite skilled in the art of survival. But in terms of realm, I'm far from reaching the threshold of a godly king. I'm probably inferior compared to the deeply accumulated Marquis of Zhujiang, Morosa said. He considered himself somewhat stronger than the Marquis of Zhujiang because of the foundation of a perfect life form. Just in terms of realm, after all, he had only been in the primal chaos realm for a bit more than 5 eras without having consumed any formidable treasures or godly body, and thus naturally his grasp and understanding of the mysteries of the destruction's origin were not extensive. I know. Luo Feng nodded. According to the intelligence, Marquis Zhujiang can hide in the void, his body existing between the real and the illusory. Indeed, my 300 blades of light would have a hard time fully striking him. Marquis Liu Yin is even more formidable, though I can now approach his strength in terms of technique power. I estimate I can't even touch him. I admit I'm not confident I could defeat Marquis Liu Yin. Morosa reverted to his normal appearance. After all, he is a pinnacle of the primal chaos realm existence, rumored to be able to transform into a world's disaster. In front of him, I can only say I have a chance at survival. Luo Feng smiled and said, Morosa, don't forget, I haven't been in the primal chaos realm for long. Morosa was taken aback, and couldn't help saying, Right, Master, you've just reached the primal chaos realm, how come you've become so strong? This is a secret technique of transformation I've created using the ability of formless and intangible, Luo Feng explained. Self-created? Morosa was shocked, the feeling complex at this moment. This was the difference between a sector beast and a cultivator. Sector beasts naturally absorbed countless insights from the origin of destruction, and their understanding of various secret techniques was instinctive. They didn't need to contemplate or create anything on their own. Luo Feng nodded and said, This transformation secret technique that I created myself offers immense help in terms of my godly body. Now that I've barely started, this is my current strength. 300 blade lights, they can dodge, transfer, or dissipate them. But what about 1,000 blade lights, or 3,000? Luo Feng said, Overwhelm them many with one. Even if each blade light isn't very strong, a change in quantity causes a change in quality. Once the power accumulates to a terrifying degree, it can even split open a braided cage. Who among them could avoid it? The braided cage would be split open. Everything in the way must be annihilated. 3,000 blade lights? Master, can your power still increase tenfold? Morosa couldn't help but ask. The great Tao of destruction origin. It was supreme power, entirely devastating everything. As a pet of the destruction origin, Morosa knew very well how unimaginable it was when such absolute power reached a certain level. Sweep across everything. Destroy everything. Space-time, worlds, causality, and all else must be shattered. Before absolute destruction, There was no need to consider any entanglement of causality, no need to mind any schemes, and it could even level the entire world. That pinnacle sector beast comprehends the complete great Tao of destruction origin. Yet, it's merely a sector beast of the first-rate Tianmu kingdom. It doesn't even dare to unleash a catastrophe. It seems that the foundation of the two ancient countries cannot be compared to the complete great Tao of destruction origin. Morosa, understanding the power of the destruction origin, was increasingly aware of the terror of the two ancient countries. His master was willing to become a guest elder in the line of Emperor Chu of the Flame-Wind ancient country, and Morosa was also willing. The stronger his master became, the safer he would be. I employ the lineage of life origin to perfect the law of transformation, Luo Feng nodded. Then, I use the lineage of the destruction origin to execute my blade technique. 300 blade lights are just the beginning. Luo Feng was not hiding anything in front of Morosa. Because his current realm was quite low, the primal chaos blade was his strongest blade technique, and it required considerable effort to use. At this moment, the fact that he could control 300 blades was purely because the soul of his perfect divine body was strong enough, and his spiritual will was at the godly king level, which allowed him to forcefully control so many blade lights. As his godly body continued to grow and the soul nurtured within it became stronger, the number of blade lights he could control would increase. Most importantly, as his realm improved, Luo Feng's execution of the blade technique would become easier and his consumption of heart force would reduce. Naturally, he would be able to perform more techniques. Master, your transformation law is already so formidable just at the introductory stage. If it continues to grow, its potential is indeed enormous, admired Morosa. This method is merely in its embryonic form, Luo Feng also acknowledged this fact. Even the primal chaos layer creatures that he had collected on his own consisted of 6 types, and he had only studied one so far. The law of transformation naturally involves the study of multiple transformations. Draw upon their strengths. Moreover, there are also some creatures in the primal chaos layer that naturally possess primal chaos realm strength. These are much more powerful than the silverlight creatures, and have been captured alive by some major powers. Luo Feng believed that the Flame-Wind ancient country had also captured some, and he planned to study 1 or 2 of them when possible. The creation and perfection of the law of transformation, the strengthening of the soul and spiritual will, and the ascension of realm. All these improvements would enhance his power. Luo Feng vaguely saw. The path of the law of transformation is one where he could break laws with force, using absolute power to destroy everything. Perhaps during his phase in the primal chaos realm, he might hope to split open the braided cage. Of course, Luo Feng did not dare to hope for too much, considering that some ancient godly kings couldn't achieve this. Go back to your tasks, Luo Feng waved his hand, moving Morosa out, and then he began to focus on his cultivation again. Entering the early stages of the primal chaos realm was a period of rapid strength enhancement, and Luo Feng wanted to devote himself to seclusion. Morosa was moved out, but he felt somewhat unpleasant. Previously, the master could only defeat me by using the secret technique of willpower. But now, it seems, he could likely defeat me in a regular fight, Morosa thought. I too must find a way to accelerate my growth. But I don't know how to study or comprehend. I need to devour some powerful godly bodies and treasures to enhance myself faster. But to obtain these godly bodies and treasures, I need the master's help. Morosa was quite troubled. As a sector beast, he had to be extremely careful during his growth stages. This land of origin was too hostile towards him as a sector beast. Displeased, Morosa decided to look for some food. Lord Luosa, Moyu Qingyang ran over. What's the matter? Morosa glanced at Moyu Qingyang, feeling quite annoyed at seeing this youngster whom he had painstakingly taught for over 30 years. How stupid he was, so much inferior compared to the master. His master's growth rate made even him, a natural bearer of the destruction origin, somewhat anxious. Lord Luosa, I've made a breakthrough, Moyu Qingyang was ecstatic. I've finally mastered all of the 10 fundamental laws. Upon hearing this, Morosa glanced at Moyu Qingyang and said, so you've mastered the 10 fundamental laws? Is such a trivial matter worth getting excited over? Mo Qingyang was taken aback and immediately nodded obediently. Compared to his master and Lord Luosa, both of whom were incredibly strong eternal true gods, he was indeed very weak. "Hurry up and get me something to eat," said Morosa. "The master is in seclusion and should not be disturbed. When the master comes out of seclusion, then tell him about your breakthrough. I'll go prepare something to eat right away." Having served Morosa for so long, Mo Qingyang was well aware of Morosa's preferences and immediately went to make arrangements. Morosa watched Mo Qingyang run off and finally revealed a smile, feeling extremely pleased. This foolish boy has finally made a breakthrough. My own cultivation has never been this exhausting. This episode is end here.